about the length of time it is taking for JPS to reconnect power. You know, sometimes I think we become so self-absorbed. When we are in our zones, we can only think of us, and I'm guilty of that a lot of times. But we really need to put everything into perspective and see what has happened. Some people complain that is a little breeze blow, is a little rainfall, and it's as if they are completely oblivious to the plight of every other parish, every other person, and the level of the destruction that was brought upon this country by this particular hurricane. When I look at some of the pictures, there are some communities where you don't have any light post standing. And if that is the case, remember that these workers have to cut through trees, fallen poles and everything, safe wires, to go and restore power. And I don't think we're at the point yet where we should be running out of patience. The dreadful thing is that it has been so hot. As I kept moaning last week, so hot, and then the mosquitoes are out. So I get it. Yeah, I had it for a couple nights well. No matter even if you go outside, it doesn't really stop it. But the point where you're going to take to social media and make some of the comments that you do in the tones that you do, it's as if you're living on your own little island. There's a lot that's happening. I hope to get an update as well from Minister Vaz, because I think he's also getting an update from JPS, and JPS is doing whatever it can with all the resources available. They say they can do it a little bit more, so we'll find out what more they can get to move a little bit faster than they are at the moment. Every single one of these workers who go out there, they have had challenges perhaps at home as well, that they have to leave and come and sort out things for the national grid. Let us bear that in mind. The last thing I will say is, I don't know if you've been watching what is going on in Europe and what went on in France last week Sunday and yesterday. It's only about 3 weeks before the start of the Olympics there, and the political instability is literally at a crescendo. Far right, a far right party which you've, I'm sure, heard about, Marine Le Pen, they're sort of struck to the core of a number of people in France last week when it won the first round of the parliamentary elections there. And that led to an all-out political front, an alliance of sort, to make sure that they came third in the elections yesterday. And a lot of people are breathing a sigh of relief because of the relics of history. And it is not vintage history we're talking about. It's sufficiently recent for people to be concerned that a far-right party could gain such traction in France. Only last evening no party has really won an all-out majority, so they have a hung parliament. And there is speculation that President Macron may not remain for much longer. He has about 3 years left on his presidential term. Yeah, there are some people who believe that this sort of makeup of the parliament may serve him, because there's no one party who can sort of commandeer his presidential action. But he doesn't go to the parliament at all. He's one of those sort of executive presidents similar to what goes on in the United States. So he sort of rules by decree. But we should be very concerned about the growth of far-right movement, far-right parties in the world with all that has happened during the war. Yeah? This is what Nick Ferrari, one of the journalists, one of the talk show hosts on LBC in the UK had as an update to the elections in France, which I found very fascinating because he spoke with somebody who puts everything in better context than I can, because I don't know much in comparison to this person.
Of the far-right national rally, Jordan Bardella, speaking last night after the exit polls were released, hitting out at political rivals who worked together to help prevent the national rally from forming a parliamentary majority.
Unfortunately, an alliance of dishonor and a dangerous electoral arrangement set up by this government with the far-left coalition has deprived the French people of a political recovery.
After the exit polls had dropped, the consequences began to sink in, and then this dramatic announcement from France's Prime Minister, Gabriel Attal.
My political party, even though its performance was 3 times better than initially expected, is still not a majority, and so therefore, in line with Republican tradition and in keeping with my principles, tomorrow morning I shall resign from my post.
Well, let's go to LBC's correspondent in Paris, Peter Allen. Peter, shades of the Euros here, isn't it? Right-wing bloc, but fudge in the middle. Good morning.
Good morning, Nick. That's very well put. It's an extraordinary result, really. Everybody was gearing up for the national rally to form a government, to put young Jordan Bardella as Prime Minister. That's what the polls told everybody. The polls are normally pretty good here in France. But you had this Republican front, as it's always called, when everybody gets together to try and stop a far-right government. And it won very impressively. Their figures are going up all the time. I can tell you, Nick, the latest figures are New Popular Front on 182 seats, Ensemble, which is the presidential alliance of Emmanuel Macron, on 163, and the National Rally right down at 143. They had hoped for a 289-seat majority in the 570-seat French Parliament, but they haven't got it.
What happens now, Peter?
Well, it's effectively a hung parliament. Emmanuel Macron, he's in no hurry at all to appoint a government. I can tell you that, Nick. There's a very good reason for that. The most important person in the Fifth Republic is the President of France. Massive amount of power. He can rule by decree. He can ignore Parliament completely. He's never been an MP. I don't think he's actually ever been to the French Parliament. Can you believe that? That's an extraordinary fact. So he will slowly get some kind of government together. Who knows? He might even have Gabriel Attal back, the Prime Minister who's just resigned. He has to do that as a formality according to Fifth Republic Convention. He might be back. It's even possible that Emmanuel Macron will appoint technocrats from outside of Parliament to be his Prime Minister.
That is exactly why we shouldn't even countenance this idea of an executive president of the sort they have in France, and certainly as they have an offshoot in America. So you heard him mention that the Prime Minister resigned. A short while ago, BBC said the president has asked him to stay on. So days before the Olympics, a lot of political instability. Watch it when we go there. Stay with us. Those are my thoughts for the moment.